Hello, I'm author Bob Pierce and welcome to my studio. In this video, we're going to take a look at my process for researching a book. I've done 12 of them so far and I'm working on the next one. I'm going to show you a little bit about how it all goes together. So the timing of making this particular video is perfect. I've just completed the latest book, Soldiers, Statesmen, Thieves, and Spies. This is set during, well, the end of the Civil War, and much of the research that had to be done for it was done through a lot of books, including some that I was fortunate enough to have inherited from my father, who had a great fascination for the Civil War. These books I accumulated from my own library, and these files are about to be filed in these drawers here, along with all of the stuff that I've collected from the internet, various notes, maps, whatever else that's accumulated over the years from the previous 11 books, all of which I save just to be able to go back and look things up. The next book is going to be in places where we've already been several times, so a lot of the information that I've already looked up will come in handy for that one. My credo, as I've mentioned in other videos, is it's all about the story. A good story told well. So to do that, you need to write what you know. You've probably heard that before. But what you don't know, you need to research. And so there are a number of different places to find the information that you need. For this next book that I'm working on, I've just kind of gotten started, and this is what I've accumulated so far. Some of the books from my own library, some folders from previous researches for other books, and a lot of other research, and we'll talk about all of that later on. One of the sources that you can get a lot of information from is online. Now, that's not always reliable, and you have to corroborate much of what you find there. And you have to remember too, Snopes is not 100% reliable either. So do what you can do, find what you can find, and then just double check everything, especially when it's critical information. From the horse's mouth is always best, even online. And there are certain sites that you can get certain information from that can be useful and reliable. Government sites, for example, the CIA and the FBI and various other branches of government appear in a number of my books, as well as other governments, like Russia, Croatia for the next book, for example. Looking up their websites gives a lot of good information about how their governments work, where the various buildings are located, a little bit about their security, things like that. All elements that can be added into the book as we go along. Corporate sites, likewise. Most corporations, of course, are trying to promote their business. So you go to their website and you're going to find a lot of fluff, a lot of stuff about how wonderful their products are, etc., etc., etc. But you can also find out a lot about their corporate structure, some of the people involved, and some of what they do and how they do it. And that can be very useful as well. Now, if you're going to be going to areas in your book that you've personally never been to, tourist sites are always useful. And you can find a lot of, well, the local tourist bureaus will give you a lot of information, but there are also various sites out there that have people who have visited these places talking about their experiences, and that can be a gold mine of information, especially if you're looking for some of the behind the scenes stuff, the things that happen where tourists don't normally go. If you're looking for a restaurant for your characters to go to that isn't something that, you know, the local tour would bring them to, these sites can oftentimes give you that information. There are a lot of agendas out there, so you do need to be aware of that when you go online. People who have an axe to grind, people who have a political position to put forth, and so on and so forth. Sometimes that can be useful, as long as you're aware of what you're looking at and you boil it down to just how you're going to use it in your book. Now, one of the things that I've done a few times, and this has been incredibly insightful, pose a question on your Facebook page, and you will get a wide variety of people responding to it. And Facebook, because it's international, a lot of the people that respond may not be from your geographical area and may have different cultures, different historical perspectives, and so forth. Even the responses you get from the so-called wackos out there might be useful in certain parts of your book as well. So keep that in mind. Don't throw anything out. Now, looking at reliable sources, one of the best that you'll find out there is books. A lot of published material that's out there about history and various technologies and things like that that you can get your hands on. A lot of times, like this one, I got from a library sale, one of those charity sales that they have at the local library. I don't know what I paid for it, probably almost nothing because I'm a cheapskate, but I have a whole shelf full of that stuff, and it's a go-to source for just about every book. This particular Civil War book that I wrote involves most of the characters from the Confederacy. It's a story of what becomes of the gold, the treasury of the Confederacy. Books like this one that focus on various aspects of the Confederacy and the war from their point of view was very useful. And although a lot of it was just kind of fringe elements, I had a very good understanding of what was going on and the attitudes, which is more important than anything else, because that's going to feed into all of the various conversations. What were people thinking? How did they feel about different things? Not just the big issues that we know about with the Civil War, like slavery and states' rights and so forth, but the personal stuff, the stuff that people are feeling and thinking as they have to deal with the realization that their cause is lost. And what now? Where do we go from here? Another help is personal interviews. If you have the opportunity to talk to an expert on something, try to take advantage of it. For Brannigan, which is about a cop, I needed some help on police procedures. And so I interviewed a local sheriff, and she gave me all kinds of information. She even reviewed the manuscript when I was about halfway through the process to give me any tips that I should change, just to make it all the more realistic. And when I did the book Pieces, I also talked to a local police sergeant, actually, who talked to me about certain police procedures that would appear in the book and how they would handle certain situations. And I also, because the book features as one of its main characters an autistic young man, I sought out a local young man who is a high-functioning autistic and sat down and spent about an hour with him talking about life, about how he deals with life and how he deals with various situations. It was very insightful and something that, between my notes and my memories of our conversation, created the lead character in this book. Another thing, too, that is very helpful, wherever you go, anywhere you go, I usually carry around a little camera. I've mentioned this in other videos, but I also keep mental notes and even physical notes about the places that I go. If I need to go specifically to a place and it's accessible, I'll make an on-site visit specifically for research of the book. But when my wife and I went on a cruise, we went to Cozumel, which is a little island off the Yucatan Peninsula, and the cruise boat stopped there. And we took a kind of a non-tourist tour of the island and saw a lot of what the island life was like there. And that became the location for Lilith, the assassin who appears in this particular book, Hunting Lilith, as her base of operations, where she hoped to one day retire from her deadly career. So keep in mind all of that as you go through life, and as you have the opportunity to, well, gather books, yes, but also to collect experiences and get a chance to talk to people that know about certain things that may be helpful at some point. Or if you're working on a project and you deliberately need to talk to somebody, seek them out. You'll be surprised how willing people are to sit down with you. That police sergeant, I didn't think I'd be able to pull that off. I mean, he was a cop and he had a job, and you know, how willing would they be to talk to me? I had to make an appointment and wait a couple of weeks, but they were happy to accommodate me, and he spent a good 45 minutes with me in his office answering every question I had, even some of the questions I thought he would probably dodge. He was very, very forthcoming, which made for an even better book. Remember that the more time and effort you invest at the beginning of your project, the better your finished book is going to be. Your goal is to make it real, to make it believable, and most of all, make it relatable to your readers. So be sure to check out other videos in this series. We'll be talking about character development, getting your project organized, and design strategies for the time when you've got this manuscript finished and you're ready to go to press with it. So until the next time, I'm Bob Pierce from the studio.